name is Lusitania Peninsula, sister, and we're reading Saturnastra Monkey King. This is chapter 16. The second night, but arrived in the tower, he was greeted by cold stares, and even Edward did not show any positive disposition. Then again, he had developed a bit of an eerie personality because of Lamina. And smiling, Abel saluted Irving by waving his staff, and Irving returned the salute without much enthusiasm. And one of the tower mages commented dourly, "Do behave yourself, monkey." "I will wash your tongue, peasant. You are speaking to a king after all," said Abel, huffing his chest and stabbing tiptoe to make himself bigger, puffing himself up. The tower mage and his friends laughed, and used to a sort of a reaction. Abel the Monkey King and his party spread around to pick up whatever useful tidbit of information, and after an hour walking around, nothing of importance was being discussed. And it was a bit early, and the guests were still gathering around the tower, and the tower had not changed much since last he saw it. The libraries were spacious and dusty as ever, the necromancy lab was still tragically deserted, and the master chamber was crowded with demons, and the only difference was that a floor with a classroom had all the walls taken down to make a sort of overgrown lecture room. And with a podium it reminded Abel one of those lecture theaters of the university, and the roof was decorated with a golden hexagon pattern, and the interior of the hexagon had patterns and figures and letters decorated in red and blue with golden borders, and comfortable couches had been placed in the back towards the windows for lecturers, and depending on the rank of the guest was the make and style of the chair, and the richer mages did not take notes, rather they had squires who kneel before them recording the entire lecture with ink and quill. That's like higher level snobbery that you have, that even that you never see in like TV mages. Us rich mages, we don't write, no, we have squire muggles that take care of that write stuff for us. Whatever. Moving along. Others prefer more ethereal method of collecting information in the form of pixies, fairies, and even a pudgy dragon or two, and the Bonato did not have a shared place for him, and to show off, his iron mages summoned forth a throne for him front and center, and the platform throne was made of white marble with red cushions for Abel to lie down on, and it was elongated to provide room for his drawing, notebook, and ink. And the throne platform exterior was sustained by carved human figurines wearing elegant crowns, and the interior base columns were swirly with golden slash around it, and beside each one there were panthers. And the headboard was decorated with arcanthus patterns, and to sit on them, Abel had to climb 2 large steps. And when the initial annoyance and surprise subsided, the mages came forth to examine the throne. Shaking his head sadly, Irving said, "Humans and their love of shiny." Marguerite then said to Irving, "I was under the impression that you were still human." "That is not a pleasant habit of yours, Marguerite," said Irving proudly. "It makes me smile," said Marguerite, rubbing his tail against Irving's long leg. Marguerite is a cat, but it's a magic cat, so, you know, he can do telepathy and stuff. For Gargantua, her throne was more of a rocking chair, and after sitting on it for a bit, she was fast asleep, with Hyperion resting on her lap. And the way she petted Hyperion, it reminded Irving of a cat, and Inanna was late, but that was to be expected, and by now the lecture hall was full, buzzing with noise. And in the audience there were the guest speakers of the day, and all in all, less than 40 had been willing to share their knowledge with the rest of the magical population. And Irving was set to speak later that night, and he had been a guest speaker at 2 previous events, and the room was slightly attended which he personally preferred. So like when the peasant mage was to like talk, then very few people actually bothered to like come here and talk, because they'd be like, "Oh, he's just like a poor peasant mage. You know? He's too poor to know anything useful." Cause like people be just like that. And in the end, the mages decided to start the lecture without Inanna, and putting away the red cape, putting away the red carpet, the lectures droned. And after 3 hours of copy and conversation, Abel was regretting coming here. And using his pillow, he settled down for a nice nap, and one of the lecturers came up and poked the Monkey King with his wand, and mockingly he said, "Is the lecture too intricate for your underdeveloped brain? If the monkey wishes to sleep, he should return to the barn." And sitting up, Abel the Monkey King said, "It will not kill you to send a resume of the information you wish to discuss." And in the end, Abel had the iron mages disintegrate the throne, and the people sitting behind him were grateful grateful for this solace, and together with his companions he took to wander in the halls, and the higher guards were mindful of his movements, and when he came into the kitchen he heard the servants chattering and laughing, and those frying the chickens by the fireplace were quite merry indeed, and at the center of the lot was Inanna, calling on the servants that were making a mess of the dinner, with their constant drinking, singing, and laughing and rambling, and to Abel it seemed like a true symposium than the boring mess he had just witnessed upstairs. And the fair Inanna was wearing what industry considered an elven dress, the color of snow, and it was decorated with blue oars made of azurite, and the smaller jets surrounding the oars were made of white jade, and the sleeves were tied at the top and loosed halfway across the elbow. And the dress had a V cut at the neck and a large blue orb at the center, and the large crown she wore was made of stylized ivory flowers pressed against a flat Stefanite frame. Abel took a few minutes to admire Inanna's dress, and she always seemed to cause quite a strong impression whether she was dressing as a man or a woman, and in both cases her bony frame and delicate psyche were visible, and giving a slight smile, Inanna beckoning, she said, "Come and join our little symposium," and taking her hand, she got up and she danced with Abel through the mess hall, bumping into those generally trying to get some work done. Both quick on their feet, they managed to avoid getting stained by the mess that humans call food, and the head cook eventually came back from his break and he yelled, "What is this mess? You two get out of here if you want to get fed." And standing behind Inanna, Abel said, "I watched that holly tongue, sir, and we were just having fun, no harm done, and besides, if you make too much food, it would all go to waste." "Such events demand opulence," said the head cook, coming closer, and he made a motion to touch Inanna's shoulder to guide her out, but she grabbed a nearby spoon to brush his hand away. Pointing at him with a spoon, she said, "Whatever gave you the impression you had the right to touch me?" "I meant no insult by it, my lady," commented the cook, gritting his teeth, and opening the door, he said, "Please, please, after you." And Inanna left the kitchen, followed by Abel the Monkey King, and before the door closed behind her, she threw the spoon which struck the lady cleaning the floor, and not knowing the source of the strike, she proceeded to strike with her mop the nearest person to her, and says to the brandy and the black one, "Give the..." And she left the kitchen in quite a commotion, and after running up a couple of floors and made it to the library, and chuckling, Abel said, "What a mess. I amuse myself," she added. "It is worse for the staff, baking in the furnace all day long, and the mages could improve their equipment a bit with a bit of enchantment, but they choose not to." So like the mages could like enchant the kitchen to like make it more efficient for like the humans cooks, but they'd be like, "Meh, we're not gonna waste mana on that." Time, bro?
15 minutes.
"Some things never change in the Tower of Subero," said Abel, shaking his head sadly. "And speaking of which, the guy has been expecting you for some time." "He knows where to find me," said Inanna, folding her arms. "No, not that Suberos, but the other one," explained Abel. "I know which one you meant, and I'm not stupid, cheat," said Inanna, gesticulating with her arms. And she did not do so out of anger, but to arbitrarily flap her sleeves. "I didn't mean anything by it. It is just that the old one, the new one, and the dead one, it just gets pretty confusing," commented Abel. "Yeah, there's several Suberus. It's like more of a name title, you know? There's the dead one, the new one, and the old one." "Why must they all sport the same name? Seems pretty foolhardy and confusing if you ask me," said Inanna, tracing the border of a nearby table with her index finger. "Like most things in life," said Abel. And the pair continued to jabber in the library to the dismay of the journeymen and apprentices trying to learn, and a few made attempts to shut Inanna, but stopped as soon as they caught the eye of the ethereal beauty that was the princess, and she would lower her gaze and smirk a little with her rouged mouth whenever she caught one of those young apprentices gawking at her. It was at this point when Abel said, "Don't you have anything better to do?" "Unfortunately, no, and neither do you, and you are only happy if you are influencing the grand scheme of things." "No," asked Inanna, sitting by putting her arms on the armrest of the cushioned chair. And then, just as she was like getting herself comfortable, she noticed the dust, and frowning, she said, wiping the dust on Abel's shoulder, "Filthy, filthy place." It certainly wasn't like that back when Sivanu ran the place, commented Abel, dusting his shoulder with the back of his hand. Why must all scholarly types be so filthy? It only takes like a minute to dust off one's workstation, said Inanna. Time, bro?
13 minutes.
And to prove her point, she went to the servants' quarter and brought out 2 dusters, and together with Abel they gave a regular scrubbing to the library, and they even cleaned the top of the books and aerated the ones that had not been opened in centuries. And by thus, Suberos had heard that Inanna was in the tower cleaning the place. And the demon that informed her of what she was up to, he asked the demon, "Where's the little princess? Has she gotten lost? Why is she not here like she promised?" "Well, he has been here for the last 2 hours, and he did attend what she thought was the symposium," said the demon. "Explain," said Suberus. "In this land, a symposium is a sort of drinking party where people chat and play games, and the only place that fits a description is sadly our kitchen," said the demon. "I wasn't asking you to explain her location. I was wondering why you called her a he," asked Suberus. Grinning, the demons answered, "Why don't you lift his skirt and find out? Away with you, demon. I haven't the patience for your lost ostentations," rebuked that Suberus. "Ah, you're no fun," said the demon, fading away. And after getting misdirection from his demonic companion, Suberus located Inanna and Monkey King dusting the library, and not knowing what to make of it, Suberus said, "We have servants to do that, my lady." "Could have fooled me," answered Inanna, gritting her teeth. And she jumped off the table, and she was standing up, and she gingerly landed on the floor. And the soles of her shoes made a clanking sound which reminded Monkey King of a tap dancer's heel shoes, and upon closer inspection they seemed looked the part. And it wasn't too obvious because the stone floor was blanketed by carpets in many sections of the tower. So like she came to like the library with like tap dancer shoes, because you know when the metal heels to make like annoying loud sounds. But since the floor had like a lot of carpets, he just didn't do anything. Time, bro?
11 minutes.
"Not used to such haughty-tone," he said. "Mind your manners, girl." "Define manners," said Inanna. "The way people think you should act and behave," explained Abel. "What a bother," said Inanna, tapping her foot on the floor. "Forgive her. The princess has not been housebroken, as you may have noticed," said Abel, taking her arm and guiding her out of the library. "Her father spoils her so." After she left, the demon came behind Suberus and whispered in his ear, "Forget the pretty lass. It is her time of the month." "Well, wait a minute. The last time we spoke, you implied that she was a boy," rebuked Suberus. "Meh, why should it matter if it is not as if you have any inclination to bet her. She is as pretty to be sure, but not sensuous enough to arouse your darker instincts," commented the demon. "I wouldn't be so sure," said Suberus, looking Inanna walk away. He could not help but note her unappealing form, and he thought, remove the ornamentation, and all you are left with is a mop. It's like saying that she has a fancy dress and all that, but like she's flat. all you're left with is a stick. With Inanna left, the faint smile painted in the apprentice's lips, and they found the bizarre behavior of the princess and her little monkey companion quite amusing. And it was the first time in a decade since anyone had properly ever dusted the library, and even so Meadows had to admit that their air did smell different, and this momentary lapse in judgment lasted a few seconds, and so he was back to thinking about magic and the way of acquiring new power without revealing his true groundbreaking work to the world. And little did he realize that his efforts to conceal his powers were futile. And while Marduke held the demon side, he was essentially the ruler of all primordial demons. And the native demons of Saturnastra also tended to obey him due to the sway he held over those ancient monstrosities. And they also acted independently in order to maintain the peace of the mind of their leader, and part of this role involved keeping an eye in the roaming Inanna. And the fidgety little princess eventually left the tower with Abel the Monkey King, and after half an hour walk, they had left the cliff and made their way towards the beach, and playing by the seaside was Gargantua and Irving, and where Irving was tacitly watching Gargantua swimming. And from time to time he flipped one of the pages of the books he had taken from the library, and beside him on the sand rested the Ampio Hyperion, and this time he was mimicking a song he had heard somewhere. However, the timbre of Hyperion's voice reminded Abel of the singing of a Tesla coil. The you know the thing that they used to make like the spaceship sounds in like old movies? Yeah. Time?
8 minutes.
Very dissonant in its own charming way, thought Abel. Oh, nos peregrinismus qui femius, continued Hyperion. And Abel commented, sitting down beside Erwin. If the noise bothers you, you can always bury Hyperion in the sand. I tried that already, said Erwin, chuckling. What? And he asked, what sort of language is he singing? What sort of language is that? Abel shrugged his shoulders in response, and Hyperion continued, ad peccat deviantes filiae regis esse debuimus sid in umbra peccatorum cessidimus. And petting Hyperion in Anna translated, we are strangers here. What have we done? Straying through the realms of sin, and we should have been the daughters of the king, but we have fallen into the shadows of sin.
What?
Okay. Noticing a positive reaction, Hyperion tried other sounds, but the noise he made had drifted back to unintelligible nonsense, and the sun slowly descended over the horizon, and Gargantua had a shark or two swimming around her, and since she kept calm, they simply drew near her before swimming away. And life was slowly returning to the Tower of Subero, and it was almost as if the curse had been finally lifted from the place. Not so much of a curse, but a blessing from the god Arasa. And when the protection of death departed, nature slowly returned to its virginal coast. And while air drying herself, Gargantua asked Inanna, like princess? And Inanna pouted her lips while thinking, and once she finally understood what Gargantua was trying to say, Inanna nodded and said, aside from idle talk and political discussions, I am expected to manage my future husband's household and organize and perform charity ventures. It is really quite bothersome and trying, being a princess, and I feel that at this rate Veragena will cut off all ties from the world. Bad, said Gargantua. Time, bro?
6 minutes, 30 seconds.
Wait, are you saying that it is bad for Veragena to isolate itself, or that it is not so bad, the direction that it is taking? Asked Erwin. Yes, said Gargantua. Seeing Gargantua being trembling a little made Abel summon up a warm red silk blanket. So he asked him, is it one or the other? And she just said yes. Just to be a troll. Gargantua gathered the blanket around her, and she rested her head on her knee, and now when his eyes, Abel said, Marduke was always like that. He pretended to care about welfare of every little thing, but he shunned away whenever things did not go the way he liked, and he hasn't the will to bring peace to the continent. You are wrong, said Inanna. My father does want peace, and he's doing everything he can to achieve it. Could have fooled me, whispered Abel, raising an eyebrow. And not desiring to argue with Inanna, he shifted his gaze towards the sunset, and he kept this and many other foreboding stars to himself, and the sun was already below the horizon, and its red embers making the clouds glow like searing cauldron, and he wished he could go back to those days before he became Abel the Monkey King. And Inanna drew her knees closer to her chest, and then she rested her head on her folded arms, and looking at Abel, she asked, have you still not decided on a name? Having a true name is a big decision that shouldn't be taken lightly, said Abel the Monkey King. Maybe you're just overthinking this again, commented Inanna. Why should that name really matter? Just stick to what everyone calls you, Abel the Monkey King. Lamina's not here, and there's no need to put on strong airs, pouted Abel. And as for the name, I do not have a given name, and no one from my generation has ever been assigned a name or even a number. And when we became aware, we are just told to pick our name and be done with it. It's not very wise. Kids can be quite foolish if given the free reins to name themselves, commented Erwin. You see, just take the name a hint for a second, or whatever possessed him to call himself after a tuna, said Abel when he was interrupted by Inanna. I think he was going for the spice, said Inanna. Whatever the case, I want my name to be at least awe-inspiring, said Abel. Pity that all of the good names are already taken. I wonder What an awesome name. If I were you, I would just call it Quiz instead of for Abel, and that was the name given unto you by your mother, by your adopted mother, wasn't it? Said Inanna. I don't really like the name Abel. It sounds identical to Abel, Monkey King. How about this? If I knew you, you cannot think of a new name, then we would take the name Abel. Agreed, said Inanna, getting up and dusting her dress. Fine, said Abel without much enthusiasm. And then some fell, and with the came the cold wind from the north, and with the tide rising, Abel and his companions made their way back to the tower, and when dinner came, Inanna was pitching a fit, and the bath in her room had a lead tub, and it had been replaced the previous older copper model, and now desiring to get dragged into an argument, Abel and his naga mages went to Erwin's room, and they summoned their own dinner. And back in Lusitania, the food mages were scavenging and preparing the meals on demand, as soon as the birds sent notice, and the tower mages were never too keen on adopting these naga habits. And it seemed like too much of a hassle, seeing as the food could be dried and preserved. And as far as preservation, it was only applied to grainy products and certain fruits that could be pickled or processed into sausages or sweets. And it took less than 2 hours, but the food mages had the meals prepared for the other mages to transport, and after tracing an intricate pattern on a plate, the cooked food finally manifested. Abel ate his tomato toast with sardines with gusto, and there was a bit of a fresh minty flavor in the mix, and a thin slice of onion on top. And Abel removed the 2 onion slices and he gave them to Garganta, and she did not mind the onions, and she had a food that was going to go to waste. And for dessert, Abel ordered peta, a soft pale candy made of winter melon, and his pleasant meal was interrupted when Erwin came into the room, and staggering he made his way towards the washing room, and he emptied his stomach content in the dingy toilet. And at first he started with nausea, but giving a proper look at the bathroom situation was enough to turn his stomach, and the smell alone was revolting. And as was the naga habit, Abel and his companions stopped what they were doing, and they prepared a bath for the drunken Erwin. And they communally bathed and groomed him, and once he was clean as a whistle, they guided Erwin to the bed, and he was wrapped up in blankets. And once he was asleep, they returned to their meals. Time, bro?
1 minute, 30 seconds.
I can't help but feel a little disappointed, whispered Erwin, munching on a blueberry. No, said Garganta. Humans are always fond of pointless gestures, and it is a lot easier and more rewarding to positively pretend to work for the common good than to actually do something meaningful, commented Abel. Alright, let's just leave it here. Bye-bye and God bless.